Hello again. I have a few minutes, so I'm going to take this time for anybody that has no idea what tapping is or is new to it. So tapping is considered energy medicine. It's one of many techniques. There's NLP, EMDR, there's cellular release. There's so many different tools out there. I found tapping honestly on literally a wing and a prayer. I was honestly at a place in my life where I was like, if there's something that can truly finally help me change my life, send it my way. And if not, I just want peace. I'm tired of wanting things to change for me and I can't change them. So here's the down low quickly on tapping. Tapping came into being. There was a American psychologist named Roger Callahan, and he started studying the Oriental Meridian system. And he had a woman he was doing some work with. Her name was Mary, and she had a water phobia. So he was playing around with the Oriental Meridian system. So he had the woman, instead of using needles, he was using finger points, and we're tapping on what's called meridian points on the body. So it's the energy electrical system in the body. So what he did with this woman, Mary, who had a water phobia, is he introduced her to the water and let the emotions come up around it, and then he would have her tap. And he started a thing called thought field therapy. And so he would have her tap on different meridian points, and they tapped together, as it was told, the story was told to me, for about 7 minutes on her water phobia. And she was actually able to get in the water after that. And then he went and retested her 3 months later, 6 months later, 12 months later, and the phobia was gone. Tapping can have such a profound effect on phobias. So that's a very, I want to say, a pretty fantastic evidence of tapping working. Well, along comes a man named Gary Craig, who was a performance coach and an engineer by trade. So Gary wanted to simplify Roger's thought field therapy, so he found a way which became emotional freedom technique, which is also known as tapping, a way to shorten it and for it to still remain highly effective. So then what Gary did is he shortened the thought field therapy, and he hit on the main points, which is what I use and what I was trained in what's called the basic recipe. So in tapping, the basic recipe is simply this. We would pick up an issue. It's a problem. We tap on the problem. So let's just go, say you feel angry about something. We're just going to go with anger. So in traditional tapping, what we do is we start on what's called the karate chop point. And I can post a tapping chart in here so that people have it. So the karate chop point is literally here, the side of the hand where you would karate chop a word. I'm left-handed, so I tap with my left hand on my right. So you tap here, and we usually do 3 rounds, and they're called even those statements, and they're also known as setup statements. And what a setup statement is you're saying, even though I have this anger or have this fear, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. You can use different verbiage, and sometimes saying accept, for people, they're like, no, I don't accept this. It's too strong of a word. So you could say, I choose to acknowledge I feel this way. Most people can go, yeah, I acknowledge this. So you might have to play with the words a little bit. I use acknowledge, I use accept. And we would say, even though I have this anger, have this fear, let's go with the base chakra, which Christy was talking about today, and I just did the tapping on. Even though I have this fear, I choose to acknowledge I feel this fear now. Even though I have this fear, I choose to accept this feeling now. And just notice what happens in the mind. Again, if you hear accept the fear, you're like, no, I don't. In EFT, we call that a tail ender. It's the yeah, but. It's what the brain feeds you the information. It's like, yeah, no, I don't accept it. So you might just edit to acknowledge. So we would tend to do 3 setup statements, like 3 of those, even though I have this. And what that's doing is it's letting the subconscious mind know, I have this challenge and I at least can acknowledge it about myself. So it's setting the brain up, setting the subconscious up for I've got this. I want to accept it. You could even say, I want to accept this even if I don't now. So you're readying the subconscious mind for the tapping. That's what the setup statements do. Even though I have this fear, I want to accept that I feel this way now. So you can edit the words and soften the language so that the brain buys it more. So that's how we would do the setups. Even though I have this fear and I don't accept it right now, I want to accept it. And you'll know, and as we go through this tapping in this group, I'll edit things as I tap so that it helps people's brains sort of buy into it. But that's the setup statements. And then after we do the setup statements, we go to the different tapping points. And these are called reminder points, reminder statements. So the first point in the reminders is the eyebrow. And literally, it's like where your eyebrow begins. And that'd be, I have this fear. You would just repeat the statement. And then the side of the eye is this, literally, if you think of this kind of area right here that you can kind of feel a bone there, that's where you want to tap. I have this fear. Under the eye, I mean, really, you've got a cheekbone here. You just want to tap right, kind of like right below the pupil, under the eye. Some people do two hands. I don't. I've never found it to make a difference, but some people just like to. But like I said, I'm left-handed. I use my left hand. So under the eye, under the nose, literally your indentation, where your nose, I have this fear. Chin point, the indentation in your chin, I have this fear. We're reminding the brain what we're tapping on. Collarbone, so you can do this a couple ways. So you think about where the knot of a man's tie would be. You could open palm, tap it there. I have this fear. What I do is I tend to go out. I mean, here's literally your collarbone. You just kind of go right here. I just go about 2 inches. I don't tap on this bone. I tap just below it, about 2 inches out. You could do that. I have this fear. Under the arm, these are the ones that people are like, that's so freaking goofy. But it's 4 inches below your armpit, or really for women where your bra strap goes around. And you would tap there. I have this fear. And then the last one is the top of the head, which people are like, really? We're tapping up there? What is that? I just tap in a circle around the top of the head. And again, those are meridian points. And as goofy as this look, this is the way I like to describe tapping. It's surprising, slightly strange, yet highly effective. Because when you're tapping, what you're doing is you're tuning into those meridian points. You're sending this soothing signal through your energy system, your electrical system, to the amygdala, which are at the base of each side of the brain. And that's where, cortisol when cortisol starts floods our body when we're stressed, it sends that soothing signal to the amygdala, and it soothes the nervous system. And that's why we tap on, you call it negative phrases or your truth. And when you tap on that first, this is what I say to people that are like, I don't want to tap on the negative. It's in you anyway. You're thinking it anyway. And you're trying not to think it. So when you can bring it forward and tap on it, you're acknowledging the truth and you're changing it. Much like in the old vinyl records, if you have the needle and you put a scratch in the record and it doesn't sound the same, that's what you're doing with tapping. You're interrupting those thought patterns. And the more you interrupt them, the more you're changing the neural pathways. You're sending that interruption to the neural pathways, and you're changing the cell. You're changing the neurochemicals that are flooding the cells in the bloodstream. It's kind of kooky how goofy it looks, but how effective it can be. The other thing that I've said when you tap, and I said this I think in the video yesterday, you can have your emotion can spike, meaning get greater. And it's so good that you know that, because sometimes people tap and they're like, wait, the emotion's getting stronger, and they're afraid they're doing something wrong. That's a great sign, actually, that you've targeted the emotion. You've targeted the emotion, so it's escalating. And this is what I say to people. It's targeting that emotion. It's freeing it from your nervous system, especially as you tap. And it changes it. When I did this a few weeks ago after my sister passed away, and then I found out about our cat being killed, I mean, I had intense emotion coming up, but I've tapped long enough to know that's a great thing. So you all know it's a great thing when the emotion intensifies, because eventually, like the fever breaks, the emotion's going to break. So I would tap and I was like, oh my God, I was really feeling it. And it really felt physically painful, but it didn't last. I kept tapping, kept tapping, kept tapping. And all of a sudden, like I said, the fever broke. I was feeling such intensity of emotion, but all of a sudden it was like, whoa, oh my God. I felt so much better. It's like taking that deep breath and letting it go. The fever breaks. The emotion breaks. And since that particular thing on that specific thing, which was, I literally have not felt the same way about it. I actually had this sweet friend of mine we were talking, and she asked me what happened to my cat Molly, and I told her, and she sent me the sweetest email today saying, oh my God, I'm sorry. That probably was so traumatic and it was hard to do that. And I was like, oh my God, you're so sweet to be concerned. I literally could tell her the story without the emotional charge because I'd tapped through it. So that's what tapping does. It doesn't erase the memory, but what happens is you tap, you free your nervous system, your energy system of that strong emotional charge, and you'll find that you'll be able to tell a story about a significant event in your life that maybe before would really trigger you emotionally, but the emotional charge is gone. So you can tell the story out loud and you're like, wow, it's a story, yeah, it sucked that it happens, but the charge is gone. And that is what tapping does. And that's why Christy and I thought, oh my God, this is a great combination, is she talks about the body stuff and then I can help with some of the tapping stuff. And please know, it doesn't mean that everything I say in tapping or the way I tap on this is going to land for you. And that's to be honored. So when we tap and I'm doing these videos, your brain is going to feed you the information. So when you're repeating my phrases, so even though I have this fear, you might be like, no, it's not fear, it's sadness. Then trust your brain. Trust your thoughts more than mine, because your brain's going to start feeding you the information, and change the words when you tap along with these videos for what feels true for you, and trust that. So now I feel sad, I feel, and again, the other thing when you tap is you can have a memory that pops up, like, where did that come from? That's how tapping works. So in tapping, emotional experiences that have a similar emotional charge get linked together in the brain. So they get linked together in the brain. So what happens is you can be tapping on a present day thing and you're like, wait, why is my grandmother in this memory coming up? That's how the brain works. So you're having something that has an emotional charge to it, and the brain, the neural pathway goes, well, we're going back to this memory. And it's so important because that can be an origin of where this started for you, much like tapping on the incident with my cat. And people might be like, it's a freaking cat. It's not that to me. It's so attached to something. I'm on the plane and I'm like, if she doesn't come back, I'd rather die. And I knew, oh, Marty, that's old trauma. And then when I tap with somebody, it tuned me into that 6-month-old self. Do I have any cognitive memory of that? No, but I knew that's what I was tapping on, and the practitioner I was working with knew it. So as we tap through it, it frees it. And that's why I say now I can talk about her. Do I have mourning for her? Do I have mourning for my sister? Do I feel that sadness? Absolutely. And I allow myself to feel that, but I don't have that like, oh God, that was so present before. So it starts to, I want to say, normalize our emotions. There's nothing wrong with any emotion. The problem is what happens for many of us is we've learned to stuff them. Well, I'm not going to think about that day. I'll think about our feelings become forbidden for us. And there's nothing wrong with any single emotion you have. Not even if you feel hatred towards somebody. It's the emotion. The actions that we take out of emotions is where the problem comes in. But as you learn to honor and acknowledge all those emotions in a safe and healthy way, through tapping and through like this, where you can be supported in that, it frees your energy system and your nervous system and the body. And there's different ways to approach it. And then you're like, I don't feel that way anymore. I feel free of that grudge or that resentment because you gave yourself that truth of it. You let yourself tap through it. You honored it. And then it frees it from the nervous system. So if you have any questions about that, please post them below this video when I post this video. And I'm happy to answer those for you. And I'll get to them as I can. But that's kind of the down low on the how tapping works and how to tap. And I'll tell you more about that as we go along. And please post any questions that come up for you about the whole tapping thing if you're unfamiliar with it, or if you are familiar, but like, hey, I don't understand this. I'm happy to share what I know about it. So hope you found this helpful. Everyone, thank you for being here. Janice, Andrea, Trish, Martha. That's my given name, Martha. I go by Marty. Laura, Ann, Jeanette, and Tina, and Dawn, and Sherry, and anyone else that watches this. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.